Well, I mean, and like you said, I mean, Gary, SS&G, 25-30% of their business was restaurants, right? Huge passion
Yep.
for that whole industry. I know there's some former SS&G colleagues of Gary's now at Aprio and part of the restaurant team. And, what's on the horizon? I mean, any exciting things come into the restaurant practice? I know a big part of it you were talking about at the beginning, kind of going a little bit deeper, making sure we're, stickier. You mentioned the word you love being a consultant, not just as a CPA. I think
Mhm.
that's part of the shift happening in the profession right now. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so a couple of things, when I think about what's next, and that is going deeper and adding value. I think is number one. We're getting deeper and deeper, not only into our clients from a business perspective, but from an individual perspective, and really understanding how we can provide value, not only to them, but for generations to come. We have lots of multiple generational families that are in franchising or restaurant business. And so that just fits really well. And so really focusing on how we can, be a bigger part of that overall consultancy. So I think that's number one. Number two, number two is we're continuing to expand into franchising in general. I think we're probably one of a handful of firms that has a team that's just focused on the business of franchising, right, for the franchisor. So we're starting to build that out. A lot of that talent sits in the big four because a lot of those franchising groups sometimes are publicly traded or they're part of publicly traded companies. So I think the middle market really lacks that focus. And so we have built out and we are expanding a team with that focus that I think serves really well in the middle market. And I think franchising itself is continuing to grow. It's been around in mid market, small business market for a long time. But again, I think as you're seeing these franchise groups kind of emerge and mature, I think there's something missing there within the market that we're certainly taking advantage of. Um, you know, and then lastly, I think it's just, becoming better and faster, right? I mean, technology, we were talking about your camera, your AI powered camera, before we started today. And, I feel like we're in the 19, I feel like we're in like 1994 of AI, right? Remembering back when we first got the internet and we were thinking, oh man, we're going to do returns electronically. Like, how are our clients going to feel about this? And now, I don't touch any pieces of paper at this point, right? So I think that we're really on the cusp of that. And so we have a big focus on technology, building solutions internally and externally, because I think that's where we're gonna build a lot of value there, and a scalable value. So those are the three things I think that are really what's next. And I look forward to it. I'm just as excited about this in 2024 as I was in 2014. I just now have a bunch more toys to play with.
All right,
So
I have two more questions
um,
that play off of that, and then
yeah.
we'll probably wrap up here. But one is, are you guys starting to leverage AI in your processes and the way you're serving clients, and or are you still in the exploratory phase? Just a little bit around that. I know it's across the board right now.
Yeah, sure.
There was an Accounting Today article that's like 59% of accountants or CPAs have been using AI, and then I talked to somebody yesterday that said less than 4% of firms are using AI today, outside of the top 100. So I don't know if that's part of your world yet or not, and starting to test it out, but I'm sure there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained there. Where are you guys at?
Yeah, so the answer to that is we're starting to use AI. We've got a big push. I don't know who you talked to that said it was the 4%. Maybe it's 4% of partners, but you go talk to our staff members and our managers and our senior associates. They're way ahead of me, right? They're teaching me stuff every day about using ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot and how that makes their job easier. We're experimenting in a number of different ways with AI. Like I said, I think the technology right now is super fascinating. It certainly makes writing internal emails easier. It's and some like novel stuff like that. But It also within our back office practice, our client accounting services practice, we're starting to figure out ways to reconcile quicker, to reconcile better, to be able to compare data better. So I forget I forget if you said 80% on the first one. The first guy said 4%. I think it's much closer to 80%. I
Yeah.
think if you're not, if take us back to the late 90s. If you're not online and marketing online, you lost. If you're not figuring out how to utilize AI in your practice and you're putting significant resources to it, you're going to lose here too.
Well, and so now that you got, talked a lot about technology advancements, staying on top of it, restaurants have changed a lot since the pandemic, I believe, right?
Yeah,
And some are thriving, some are barely surviving, some don't exist today. Any thirty
yeah, it's
thousand
true.
foot insights that you have about the restaurant profession? I mean, I know the accounting profession is not far behind in the way it's transforming today, but anything from your lens on either the restaurant or the accounting industry and how things are evolving right now?
Yeah, well, you got me on my passion on the restaurant industry. I think that the funny thing is I tell people all the time, probably 90% of my business lessons came out of working in a restaurant, right? Whether it's, how do you use technology to better communicate? How do you use technology to do things quicker, faster? You got to solve problems in that business within seconds, right? Sometimes some of your biggest problems need to be assessed and solved, within minutes, let alone, a couple of days or a month. Um, it is certainly an industry that embraces technology on some fronts and deters it on others.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good players in the space. There's been a lot of good players that have come in and out of the space trying to solve different problems. From our perspective, we're approaching it from the financial side of things, somewhat from the operational side of things as it relates to some of those kind of financial metrics or systems. And I think that's just going to continue to evolve. I mean, restaurateurs, they're dealing with rising wages, volatile food cost, and oh, by the way, you mess up your service or your product one time, even for a moment, and your customer's gone forever,
Yeah.
right? There's plenty. In the accounting space, we have no idea what real competition is as it does into the food service or profession or even home services space, right? Consumer services was the word that I was looking for. So, I mean, it's a great place to test things out. It's a great place to see how they work. And when you hit a winner, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you can scale it really quick, right? It's the second largest employer in the world. Everybody gets it. Everybody knows it, and it's a great place to play.